61 to 62. Somehow I'm trying, and Tom's dead role and all that, understanding Tom is from New Orleans, and the civil rights movement, to a large degree in terms of particularly student demonstration began in Louisiana, Southern University, which I'm from. So again, I'm trying to get some kind of understanding of Tom's reason for wanting to start Umbra, given the fact of what Tom came out of and then found himself here. What did he find here that encouraged him that this was the place that he could create some kind of writing institution that could help to propel the movement, which was the liberation of black people? And I'm listening to you, but I'm not getting a sense of, since Tom seems to be the nucleus for this whole movement to a large degree, what about him that made him believe, and I'm sure one of them was already understanding something about the South and understanding civil rights, and coming from the type of background he comes from, father being president of the university, so understand how to use media and understand the whole idea of relationship between black folks and white folks. But yet he found himself here, and at the same time realized that this was an opportunity to galvanize all these people together beyond race, class, color, sex, sexual orientation and all that, and force a whole nother understanding of our humanity, I guess you could say. So, and I'm not quite hearing that, and I know that one thing you're not talking about is the fact that, what you're 17, 18 years old? You understand me? So, how did that impact on you as a 17, 18-year-old young man? Because, I was, 18, 19, so we all, we like these little children looking up at Tom in New Orleans, looking up at these people who were idols somewhat. We in the background somewhat. So on one level, we get another view, and on another level, we just caught up in the whole idea of the movement. So I'm really trying to understand, Tom Dents and the other person who you mentioned, who seems to be, who had this idea, and was able to all of a sudden call this meeting. And where was the first meeting held? Was it held at Tom's place? You hear what I'm saying? And I think that, yeah.
See, one of the reasons why we're doing this is because Tom died, right? And we didn't have the chance to come together and say, okay, we did all this like Tom, so blah, 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 right? So we're kind of trying to patch together a lot of stuff because Tom died, so that's why we're actually doing a lot of this. Because, when we were at NYU on last Thursday, we were, when we had St. Clair Bourne and Steve and myself and that other brother, what's his name? I forget his name.
But he did that NYU.
Anyway, they had some very nice Tom, and they were talking about Tom as a man of letters. And see, we were trying hopefully to have to be able to demonstrate something of how Tom was able to organize. So we saw the film, New Orleans Draft, where Tom wrote and narrated the film, and really had deep insight into some of the subtle motives behind a lot of the draft band movement, and showed us, very thoughtful, very teaching thing. And then we talk about Tom's a man of letters. Well, Tom is a man of letters, I think. Back in the early 60s, I think that Tom was on guard for freedom. I think he saw there that they could publish a newspaper, and I love this because we saw that they had examples there. We actually videotaped the On Guard for Freedom newspaper. It's one big sheet with an insert in one sheet, right? So it's very simple. So you see, with some type nowadays, people just publishing nothing. Back then, you had to type this shit up, make it good and then, and paste it up, and it was like, it was something to learn how to do, and they were doing this in their, on Avenue C on the Lower East Side. They were putting out on guard in some kind of mimeograph format, but it looked very sophisticated, or they were, various formats. But I think Tom saw that you could essentially just put together a book. I mean, and in 1960, 1961, 1962, I don't know, the whole concept, the idea of self-publishing was like kind of not that well-known a thing. I mean, it was very rare. So when they had the library uptown, the Midtown Grand Library had this show called The Secret Location on the Lower East Side, they looked at small presses in the 60s downtown, and Umbra is represented, a nice page illustration and a nice page of text, which I should have, but I don't. We see that Jeff Berry was doing C Magazine, people were Mimeo Magazine, and San Magazine, and people just said, shit, I don't care if it doesn't look like the New York Times, or it doesn't look like a great thing, it's its own thing, right? So you look at On Guard, and it looks, some of the type is kind of faded, you look at it, and it looks beautiful. It's a piece of art, right? And it is not slick at all, It's like homemade. And that makes it look great. Of course, I think people nowadays would appreciate something like that. But, so I mean, you look at Umbra, most of the Umbras are pretty crude, but it's not, it becomes art in itself because you can tell that it was hand done. It was done by people. It wasn't done by any robot. Can you throw me another blanket? Okay, now I want to try to round this out and answer No, wait, I think you're on tape. Yeah, they're going to turn the camera to you. When you come back,
I want to give my impression of Umbra when I read this video.
I thought you were going to do a whole history of with you. But repetition doesn't work. Yeah, see, because New Orleans is so important. When you look at SCLC, that's not in New Orleans. You look at the Civil Rights Movement, it's New Orleans. So, and people up here seem to don't understand the importance of that state, or that place, in relationship to revolution in this country. Why remember things like that? Because it's real. And maybe it's my ego because I'm from that.
We remember a magazine, a beat magazine that came out in those early years called The Outsider, that came out when it was edited by a woman named Gypsy. It was very thick, but it was printed the same kind of way that you mentioned, avant-garde, and put forth the beat revolutionary. It was the beat revolutionaries and structure came together out of New Orleans about 1961.
I know, there's so much going on around there, but sometimes we lose that sight because we got this.
I think that was part of Tom's vision.
Yeah, wait a minute, don't wait, because this is, yeah, I'm sure it is, give him what he comes out of, I mean, see, and his father is, and that whole idea of how that place was created, Dillon University was created, I mean, see, you cannot negate that, to why he would come here and see this, able to see what he saw, and say, okay, this is where it's from.
Geography.
Well, I'm sure that's why.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Okay. Why? They don't halfway answer the question before.
No, it's Charlie can answer.
No. Yeah. Okay. I mean, maybe that's all I'm saying. Where was I?
You gave me your impression of why he was able to see that, his vision.
Yeah, so, so I think I answered it right.
I guess you did the best of your ability.
Oh.
I wasn't answering the best of my ability. I was looking just for your interpretation of it.
Yeah, because I mean, it's come to that, I think I said pretty much, but I think that all of us, if my people in the South, and of course we began to realize that we didn't have any information source. We were dependent on the media for information a lot, but then there was this kind of, we began to develop our own communication network. And so the idea of publishing, this is the principle of publishing, is very important. Because that meant that we were communicating with ourselves. And of course, when you have a self-made magazine, that's an example of communication, self-communication. So I think that began to bring it up. But Tom was some of the wrong things.
Right, it's called President University and church and all that. So you got a publication going on right there.
But Calvin is from Chattanooga. Steve is from New Orleans.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people
Paul the preacher too.
were from the South. Yeah, from the South, I think. So, now wait a minute. So, okay, we're gonna, now Barbara wants to make a statement, right?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna turn the camera to you. Okay, and let's open it. If you don't begin to do this, I'm gonna.
Oh, right, at the beginning right now. What I wanted to say was, I think that Tom had a vision. I think geography, first of all, I think, I know in my case, geography had a lot to do with it. We were like black people in a foreign land, we lived here on the Lower East Side. And to really get the idea of what was really going on in the South what seemed to be Tom's mission, to let us know and to show us and to introduce us to these people and to make these people very real to us.
Hold it. Sorry. But I'm on cue and
he brought these people to us, and it was his way of educating us and to continue his work that he had been doing in the South here. Because we all we had was television images, newspaper images, and I mean, we met people who were beaten, who were hosed down, who were bitten by dogs. I mean, we fried chicken for them, had red beans and rice every day for everybody on the Lower East Side. And I think Tom, when he decided to have this artistic publication, was because there was really not a voice for black artists speaking about world situations. And he provided that voice. Umbra was that voice to us, because I'm not a member of Umbra, but he brought that to us. That's what I got. That's what I got from Umbra. That's what I got from Tom Penn.
and I think also that when we saw Beyond the Blues, which is Rosie Poole's anthology from England, and 60s and 70s, another publication from England doing black writers, they were exciting. That excited everybody because they were, it really, it was a great recognition of black poetry. But I think also that we said, well, maybe we can, I think Tom said maybe, well, we can do this too, but I also think that Tom is smart enough, sophisticated enough to not say, to open a meeting and say, hey, I was thinking I want to do a magazine, so I invited around so we can do the magazine I thought about. He said, no, he said, I sit together and talk and it evolved into a magazine. I am almost certain that Tom had that in mind from the get-go, but Tom was far too sophisticated and too good an organizer to just invite people to his home and then tell him what he decided that we should do, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, so it evolved, in a certain way. And when you think of the little bits of money he was dealing with, like because he kept records of rehab and treasure, and there was such a little bit of money, it's like break your heart, I think Diamond Dave is next.
Yeah, I'm going to give my perspective living in I remember hearing and seeing them, seeing early issues of Umbra in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And how it came to me was this. I lived in San Francisco before that. I'm soon to be 62, so kind of my 1957 was 1961. You're 1961. I just come to the scene, and I met and was totally turned around by Bob Kaufman back then. And a smaller group, but I was also very involved in what was becoming the emerging New Left. And to me, coming back to Minneapolis after going to Europe, coming back to Minneapolis about 1960, having stopped and since through time and met people in New York City, and remembering magazines like, there's the first kind of black revolutionary nationalist paper, Liberator magazine. There's Liberation and Liberator. Remember those? Liberation was kind of the beginning of the New Left. Dave McReynolds was the editor. Liberator was like the beginning of a black nationalist. The brother here from Rand was here, and the beginning of a secular nationalist is not opposed to but to comprehend.
What brother from Rand was here?
The brother he had an article from Liberator magazine from.
That was Walter Bogues.
Yeah, Bogues. Who was Bogues?
Long search 25 years ago. No, maybe not that much. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to do a whole session with you.
Why didn't you know that? I had no idea.
No,
I just wanted to. I wanted to
Okay.
spend a couple sentences.
Yeah.
May I do a couple sentences?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and I heard of Barbara, and I agree with that. So Minneapolis, where I was, and I think there was freedom rides, number one. People went down, the places like Minneapolis and Medicine went down, and a number of people were then invited to come to the Clark Williams, who at the time wrote a book. Just after that book was written called Negroes with Guns. So this was just in the point where Negro was becoming black. We mentioned the world of the magazine, which was out of Ebony magazine called first Negro Digest. And many radical writers, it was first, radical black writers began to write in it. It became a black world. And I think we saw the seed grounds of people looking for an independent kind of revolutionary position, whether it be Marxist, nationalist, or nationalist and Marxist. And so all of us, and I believe what was happening here came certainly to us in Minneapolis, who was extremely interested in everything that was happening. And all the way to New York City, and I think people like Ted Jones, who was a little earlier, was a connection with the bohemian lifestyle, and Washington Square Park and Greenwich Village, and Leroy Jones becoming a Baraka. All of this happened on all kinds of levels, and I didn't know I'd have a chance to talk at a greater
Yeah, this is like really interesting, but why don't we schedule another time to do your oral
Well, I'm about to
history?
stop.
And
Sure.
so I
But
have
that's
a
all
few
I said.
more questions for David.
Yeah, well, pause it for a minute. I'm going to be right back.
But I just want to say I'm really excited about this. I believe
Okay, we're rolling in.
I remember Liberator magazine. What? Yeah, Liberator. Yeah, and Walter Bogues had I forgot damn on that magazine. It doesn't have to reread that thing. I don't know what happened with it. But anyway, you had a question?
Yeah, I wanted to, just in terms of this being your oral history, I wanted you to fill out certain parts of it. And one, things that other people address, one is, could you speak a little bit about your family and the influences you've had in your family, who your family was, etc. And then I have another question about
Well, it's good for me to answer one at a time because I'm going to answer that and then we'll go back to Maria because you had a number of questions that were all. So earlier, if it's going to be a question. No, answer one. Oh, well, I mean, but I am.
Speak, Dave.
I have a brother named Henry. My mother and father, mother's from Maryland. My father's from Beacon. They got married in Beacon, New York State. My mother's the only black woman in town that finished high school. Suffered greatly because of the social peer pressure.
He was smart.
Yeah, she was smart. Shit. That was the thing in the project. That's the tell you, you're going to the library, man. What is wrong with you? So of course, I'm sure this happens to a lot of us. You just have to defend your church, right? Let's see. So the Hendersons moved from Virginia six brothers moved from Virginia to Beacon, Wappinger Falls, Poughkeepsie, 1900. So we were going to have our hundreds, hopefully we'll have our hundreds reunion, hundreds, 1 century reunion in 2000. My mother moved up from Maryland. And of course, they all were greatly affected by the Depression. My great-grandmother was Irish, a white Irish woman. My great-grandfather was lynched because they were married in Baltimore. And so we went to see the family down there. And they're still affected by this. Of course, our religion is like in the 20s. And they still, it's like a long time ago, they still take it very much to heart. So I can't go to that part of Baltimore, Maryland. Then I realized that, Frederick Douglass was in the plantation in Maryland. And then, of course, the Mason-Dixon line, it ain't that far from New York City at all. So Washington, D.C., in the south, very close to the south. Yeah.
You're in the South.
Yeah. So, so my aunt was very important to me. My aunt Beth, who gave me some money to go to college. Not a lot of money, but it was a gesture that counted. And, I have, and so forth and so on like that. We'll return to that. But that's enough for now. Maria, you wanted to ask more? What do y'all have for that?
When they invited me, we went to the lab.
They were?
We went to the lab.
No.
Oh.
Not that way. Yeah. But say something instead of, if you want to say something. But anyway, but we want to.
There's different ways to get people to talk.
Yeah, I mean, well,
could you tell me some more like an incident about Around magazine? Was it a quarterly magazine? How many subscribers? How many issues published?
it wasn't.
The one published in
So what?
it was a quarterly or was it?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a quarterly. I think it might have been conceived as a quarterly, but we actually did 2 issues in the quarterly style before we had this conflagration, And it ceased to publish it published right at the time when there was dissension. And then there was a big lull, and that came out as an anthology in 1967. So the original Hunger group put out 2 issues of Hunger magazine. 1 and 2, both between 63, both in actually in 63. But the last number in 63 came out more towards the early 64. But those are both in 63. So we have to kind of discuss all this question now.
And your original group is like you want to see and additional reads,
Calvin Hicks. See, issue of the people you named before, Calvin, myself, Steve. But Calvin Hicks, his wife was involved with him. But Calvin, we were all a large community. So Calvin, we were all close, but he was not specifically Hunger, although we came to the parties, we came to the workshop sometimes just to drop by, or we hung out and argued, as I would say, we would have debates. We would talk in the bars about exchanging views. So he was a part of us, although he was not a former member. He thought he wasn't a writer, but he was very important to us. As was Barbara Carter. There were a lot of people in the community. See, Hunger didn't comprise the black community of the Lower East Side. Hunger was a part of the black community of the Lower East Side. So there was a lot of people around, and we all kind of hung out and partied together. So we drank together. Somebody had a party or was buying some chicken, we were there. So, Hunger was not like an exclusive.
No, that's interesting. So different people also from this community came in and this was
They came to the poetry meeting?
Yes.
I don't know if Barbara Carter came to anything about poetry meetings, but Calvin did. But it's a poetry, you know, yes. They used to make jokes, Barbara used to make jokes about the avant-garde musicians, playing the new music. Yeah, we all loved them. We knew them very well, you know. And so
I know those guys.
yeah. Right.
Now, very basic. What did you do for a living?
I began as a union organizer. Well, I began like a picket line. Like, you know, outside of some of these Korean delis, they have a picket line. That's what I used to do. And I was able to hire Calvin and some other of my friends from the Moscow to San Francisco Peace March to be in this picket line that I had. Jody Carliner and a couple others. We had this picket line, this camera company, and like we would picket all day, you know, and the people who went on to other jobs would come on Friday. So I was a picket line boy for a while. And then I worked for different poll-taking companies. Alfred Poets, that's how I knew about polls. Alfred Poets, Columbia University. Yeah.
Everybody did
Was Paris Poll?
I mean, one for a poll.
Yeah. That was a funny kind of independent job to get.
That was good always get a job.
And then you get unemployment then. Unemployment is very difficult in the early 60s. So you could work for a while, you could go on unemployment for a long time. So some of the artists, the writers trying to work in your art, you could work a job for a while and then have to work it out so that you could then get unemployment added an item in 6 months or something, and then you go back and get another job. I think they got wise to that.
How did you avoid from being in the military?
I
It was a draft military service.
I went to my doctor. I went to my doctor, my childhood doctor. I was a childhood asthmatic. So I went to my, hi, would you like to join us? Of course you can.
Thank you.
I went to my childhood doctor. I was a childhood asthmatic. And so I went and said, you know, why don't you give me a letter? So he gave me a letter saying, David Henderson, I've been a childhood asthmatic. So I was brought to the draft board and they said, you're for that. It was easy.
Okay.
You mentioned the Peace March. Does the name Ray Robinson mean anything to you?
Very.
No.
I wasn't on that piece of mine. I never met somebody
He was one of the few American, and we say, Rock Ministry was about 6'6". It was a very large spirit.
Listen, I don't know him. Do you have another question?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you want to, I think you were asking, do you want to say something? Okay.
I want to, once again, I want to kind of fill out your oral history to talk a little bit about, you went through talking about some of the California days in the 70s. Do you want to talk a little bit about where you have, what your own personal history has taken you through since then? Up until the
California in
present?
the 70s. Well, I went to California I was invited to the University of California, Berkeley, in the English department. And so I go out there, teaching the English department, I lecture in literature and stuff, and then I get invited to join also the African American Studies department, which just had done a third row strike. The year before, or 2 years before, this is 1970 we're talking about, I'd gone out there to work with the Berkeley Film School System as a consultant. And they were doing the third row strike then. They were, you see, the only reason that they had an African-American film department in Berkeley, for a lot of these schools, is because people physically fought in the streets. When you see these professors now act like so got killed so that we could get into this. So anyway, I wanted to teach, I guess, with destiny. And then I taught there for 3 years or 4 years, and quit to write this Jimi Hendrix biography called Excuse My Mr. Scott that I had promised to write Jimi Hendrix when we were hanging around on 9th Street and 2nd Avenue and McDonald's and, in Sheridan Square, where we used to live around. He lived on 12th Street in University Place. So he was kind of like in the neighborhood. His designers, people who designed his clothes, had a shop on 9th Street and 2nd Avenue. So he was in the neighborhood a lot. And a great so anyway, I took time out, and actually, 1974 was the last issue of Umbra. The Umbra Latin Soul Anthology to appear. Because while I was writing the Henderson book, we were organizing KPFA Third World Department. But what happened at KPFA was that we had this group of progressives and radicals there who thought that they were so progressive and so radical that they didn't need any people of color there. Yeah, because they didn't really have their face. Right, so we had to fight them to get in. As with the university or with anywhere, we had to literally fight them in. And then once we got in, the place became a great place. It became interesting, controversial, people got energized, there was a lot of creative conflict, so to speak, and people actually were learning from each other, And so it became wonderful, actually. And to me, that was the high point of starting maybe at Pacifica, starting in the late 70s. It took a while to get crank, but by the time the late 70s rolled around and going on into the early 90s, I consider that to be the high point of certainly KPFA radio, maybe Pacifica radio. And that's why I called some of those people who wanted to contact me and come back and try to help deal with the problem that I consider now. But so I did the Henderson book. It came out in '78, and we got great reviews and stuff, but it didn't make any money because it was hard to. And it was playing critically, and I think that for being one of the first books about a musician, a rock and roll musician, they say, although I never consider him as a rock and roll musician, more of a blues man, very creative guy, to deal seriously with this, who they consider to be rock and roll and therefore not serious artists, to deal seriously, to give it a serious artist treatment, such as a guy who to put him as a poet, as a composer, and as a visionary, and this was, of course, was unheard of at the time when he barely got out of R&B, right? So that was very interesting. So I was out in California, and at that point in the late 70s, early 80s, I went on a European tour because I had a band too. Doing the Hendrix book, I had a band. We were doing a play, a little play. Had a play, Ghetto College, and we had a band in the play. So I was able to work with the band and kind of learn more about music, about the creative process. And so we went on to do some performances, did some tapes. I went to Europe and when I met Vincent Kwesi Johnson, who was an English poet, the English dub poet, and Oku Onura, who was a Jamaican dub poet. And all these cats were working with their tapes, and they were touring all over Europe. So they were touring over. So I did some gigs with those guys, and then I started using my own tapes, which I didn't have the vocal track erased because it was me on the vocal track. So I double tracked these things. I did the vocal, I dubbed the vocal, I doubled the vocal when I was doing these performances. We went, me and a woman named Cinzia Mancini, who was an Italian woman who was a dancer. We went all over. We went from the One World Poetry Festival in Holland, where I was initially involved in Holland, at the Milky Way. And we didn't perform there, Cinzia and I, but after came back to the Milky Way and did a performance with some local musicians there, Curtis Clark and Burton Green. He did a lot of performances at the Milky Way. So that was in the early 80s, and I came back to the U.S. And oh, there's a lot I could say about that, but I'm kind of getting off track here. I think that's enough now. I want to go back to the question, so you can do some idea. Really, can I illustrate something else for you? Oh, you did. So should I go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, Ken. Well, I just want to say that I first met you in the mid-60s at, it was a group of Valley Poets. Remember that?
Like the bar poets called. You had a bar poet?
No, I remember that. Like, they had a loft. They used to do readings, like Calvin Murray read up there, you read up there, Ishmael Reed, Mr. Norman Richard, just to mention a few, and they had me. It was also like jazz music. And I know that then these two guys, Alan Hoffman and Bobby Emerstall, they had a loft. We used to have like macrobiotic meals once dinner every day. And we had like a library. It was like a scholarship too, you know. We had all these books, and we were like political discussions. It was like a multifaceted thing going on. I remember there was a magazine called Streets. I think it was. I know the Old Rose came out of Streets came out of
They were
separate magazines.
They were separate, yes.
Yeah, I remember Streets. I remember you were editor, and I think I remember you were reported that.
I was more involved in other. I don't think I was. I don't even remember. I know I was very much aware of Streets and really admired Streets. But you got the bar at Poets Co-op down. I was at 2 East 2nd Street. Right on the bar.
Yeah, it was right like it was a corner building.
Yeah. Still there.
You were quite thin in it.
Oh man. Macrobiotics.
But then so was I.
Between macrobiotics and speed, man. Really skinny. Yeah.
And it was a great era, like all the crazy people in it. It was like, there was this couple that had a Paradise restaurant.
Oh yeah.
And they ended up going into Scientology, I think, and
I knew them so well. I love the macrobiotics because they were cooking French style macrobiotics. So it was like French Japanese, but they were really cooking the Sarah brothers were chefs, and they were cooking some macrobiotic stuff. It was like Moroccan French macrobiotics, like delicious.
yeah, they had these huge tables. There weren't no individual tables, they were like two enormous tables, and you sat there and there, like light bulbs and paper bags, open them.
The paradox.
Elegant, you know.
That was the paradox.
Paradise, yeah, 6th Street or 7th Street. That was this part there.
It was the paradox was the same room where they do Magnolia.
Right.
The same room became the paradox.
Khadijah introduced me.
What's the name of the place now?
The Paradise.
It's still the Paradise?
It was the paradox.
Yeah.
Paradox.
Khadijah and Ray Johnson. When I first came to New York.
You know that Ray Johnson, Khadijah had a dress shop in St. Mark's. It was part of the broader community that we belonged to. And Ray Johnson had this great point that we wanted to publish a number, and she wouldn't let him, you know?
Yeah.
But Ray Johnson's in this Dirty Harry movie. He's an actor. He's in the Sun Ra movie, Space is the Place. And I thought he was a great actor for singing, you know. But he's in Hawaii now.
Yeah, she was telling me.
Yeah. But you look at Alan and Bob, you know, they're both dead.
I think I'm sorry.
Yeah, Bob died of a freak accident in San Francisco. And Alan, I think,
Joyce Gardner, that was, she was part of it too.
yeah, Joyce, she does some, she has an herb book that you can they used to do, they got famous doing the connection with Carl Lee Jr. And I think that they actually were using live cops to tell that.
They were.
Yeah, so they were waiting for this guy to come with the heroin, and they were really addicts waiting for the heroin.
Jackie Carl Lee. The elders were really running.
And Warren Infinity. They were all like, they were all for real. Yeah.
I love them, man. We really hung. They were very close, man. Those people, those advocates people, they were my dear friends. And I think that that's what kind of was the difference between being a nationalist or my friends, who were like these different kinds of people, But we had good times. I love theater people anyway. But they were cutting edge. They started doing that Marine play.
Great.
Yeah, they were all doing Amyl nitrate, before they hit the stage. They were totally nuts. They were really crazy. God, man. Yeah, but so you were there. So now, what was your connection?
What was my connection?
Yeah, to the bar toilet.
I guess I was, I don't know, I guess I was like part of it, part of the action. I kind of dropped that. I got hooked on speed and kind of distanced me from the whole, the action there. It was like in and out, and I maintained, my own creative impulses, through the years. I want to give you my pedigree, I've been busy. Right now I work at the Needle Exchange on NBC, which is a very controversial thing. I mean, some of the people that we have that oppose us, or, coming from formerly pretty radical place, become gentrified.
Gentrified Needle Exchange?
No, people that oppose us in the community,
yeah.
or like part of the counterculture, and they become, I feel like they've been co-opted by mainstream values and gentrification, and they're part of it. Now they're part of that. It's like, in a way it's sad, in another way it's like part of the real world. I've seen, as I said, people that I wouldn't expect to be coming from a place that, prejudice, right? And, it's just,
I see the people, these gentrified, whatever you call them, gentry, who are really suburbanites or from somewhere in West Hell, who kind of look at you like, well, what are you doing here? And like, you can see the privilege and the presumptuousness in their gaze, and it makes me feel arrogant. Yeah, because I'm saying, they're just rookies, right? They're just on the scene. They don't know shit. They just got here, right? And they got all this attitude, right?
That's how I get history of this country, doesn't it?
Oh, God, that's a good story. But, tell me your name.
Elliot Burke.
Your name, you're familiar.
Yeah, well, like in there, peripheral, but I was, part of it. I can't remember a lot of the names. Those are, I know that Alan, Hoffman, and Bobby, I know they were they co-founders. Then Bobby became bourgeoisified.
But Bobby was Peter Schumann's chief puppeteer for a long time, man.
Well, him, I said hello. I run into him every once in a while. He's in town.
Peter Schumann.
His wife, because I did some stuff with them, again, I was not like.
Are you out? Okay.
Thank you so much.
See you later. Yeah. Yeah, I remember you.
Yeah.
What? What? No more tape?
No, we're doing fine.
Yeah, I remember you. The reason I left the Bible was is because of speed. Because that speed was kicking my ass and I had to leave. So I just left the city. I went to Mexico. And wound up in San Francisco. No, I mean, they were selling, in Mexico, they sell speed in the drugstore. You can buy it on the counter, you can buy the pills. That was, I just had to get out of the circle of influence. It's hard, man. That shit's hard, man. That shit's like crazy. It's hard. Anyway, I left and when I came back and I went to San Francisco, I went to Mexico, met some people in Albuquerque. Walker there, you know. I saw him there, but who's from the Lord's side, one of the brothers on the other side. Wound up in San Francisco, met some people who saw me be at St. Mark's in Albuquerque. They took me to San Francisco just in time for the summer of love, that whole hippie thing out there. So that's the first time I had San Francisco completely by accident. And I came back to New York and I died. But I was glad to get away from that, although it was a beautiful thing. I loved the bar and all this fun, man. I love my law. I go to a one called Vineyards. It's in the Mayor Farm. I used to look out the window and see all these bar guys. They would drink. People, you talk about people who get a little tipsy. Boy, them guys would drink, man. They'd be like reeling around the street, man. They'd be like bumping into shit and walking into it, have black eyes. They'd be fighting. Man, they were like drunk. I mean, these people nowadays, man, they ain't talk about tipsy and getting you great, man. So I drank from that shit. The North American. I discovered the label, it wasn't wine. Because it didn't say wine, it said North American port. But it didn't say wine, because it wasn't wine. It was like these chemicals, right? You know, you think that you black out. You be walking around, you know, what you doing? It's crazy. Then I understood these guys, right? Because I looked around and I looked out my window and I couldn't figure it out until I drank that wine. I was like, man, these guys. That was amazing. But then I would see, you could see look downtown, that was up this road, you can see all the limos going out the bar, and see wines, and it used to be a scene, because there'd be crowds of them walking around, and it'd be like the night of the living dead, man. It'd be like, wow, this guy, it ain't just started up. Man.
Well, 10 years before that, Flash Spot, the original Flash Spot, right? That was the place to go. And what's now the New Norwegian Post Theater was Slow, I think it was Slow the Bar.
Now, stop.
Was it? Yeah, but it's on 3rd Street, right? Yeah.
I think that was the theater, and then it was the wings and things.
Oh, please, God, that whole 3rd Street.
Remember the chicken wing joint? The chicken wing joint on 3rd Street after the street?
From
Sports
Slow.
family. You could smell it about the way.
Yeah. Across the street.
That was my diet.
We got to claim that street back. We got to claim 3rd Street between B and D. Because, you know, that wing shop, I tell people about that because the guy had the wings all on the window. The little light bulbs keeping them warm. It was hard, man.
Yeah, it was hard.
You got Mama's.
French fries.
Mama's up there.
Yeah, Mama's kids.
Mama's is
Still
still
on
on
Paris Street. No.
Okay, but I want to, you mentioned the old Fly Spot, which was a beautiful little, I think it was a self-contained building in the street, but I remember going in there and seeing roller curtains. That's the whole thing. During that time, access to the music was very high. You could go and hear some good music any night of the week. And this is going to old Fly Spot, man. I remember you could sit, it was kind of a small place, but I used to sit sometimes and roll in the curtain. This phone would be right in front of my face, man. And it was like beautiful, man. And, I always loved around midnight. But we go to the Fly Spot, the Jazz Gallery, the St. Mark's, and First Avenue, the Half Note, a lot of clubs. And we knew a lot of musicians, and Slug was happening. It was a nice thing. It was a nice thing to just be involved with that music, especially when the music went from bebop into this kind of avant-garde thing. Kind of the people downtown were big proponents of that. Archie Shepherd, Cecil Taylor. one with Calvin Herndon and a woman named Ree Dragonette, who was an Italian poet, who, you know, who goes all the way in the village today. An Italian poet, very beautiful woman, who's really down. Anyway, she and Calvin and Eric were doing a collaboration together. And they took me one time to see him, right? So he had a loft in Cherry Street. We go down there and we'll knock on the door of this loft and this cat's playing. And it's beautiful. First, we just stood there and just listened for like a half an hour, you know. And finally there was a lovely knocking, and it was playing on me. I got teary jerks. So then we finally, after we knocked a while, we were petrified. Finally, opens the door, man, you know, and he had this little thing in his voice. It was like pulsing, you know. This guy was really intense, you know, really totally intimidated. But he did do this composition to this piece, like Pharaoh's Eye, like onyx stone. But he just only instrumental. They did do it live, though. And we read the poem and played. But another time I was at the 5 Spot, because Charlie Mingus, the 5 Spot, the new 5 Spot, and they moved up to the St. Lawrence Point. And Charlie Mingus was leading this ensemble, which included Eric Dahl. He was playing this thing, you know, and they had this long, rambling piece they were playing, and he was bringing to a close. He was bowing and stuff, and bowing real slow, because, you know, you could tell he was taking it down and down, and peace. So he ended, and he walked off the stage, and Eric Dahl stayed on the stage, and he just started playing this great song, right? You know, so a lot of great ideas happening in the whole piece. Mingus comes back out and looks up there, and he's furious, because, you know, it's like a sister beat or some shit like that. So then he goes back to the back, you know, which is right, like, that's the back door, this is the stage. Then you hear him beating his bass guitar, the shreds, against the refrigerator, and it's like a avant-garde art piece, man. As Eric Dahl is playing very so, he's just smashing his bass, man. You hear it, it's like...
He turned up a lot of things. I saw him, I was sitting like right here, he's like right there, and he just stepped into it and started, you know, showing a cow out there in front of the bass. That was like splinters or flying. And you know, and we were thinking, oh,
that's a lot of women to break up and smash up.
Yeah, a lot of energy. You can see like the fury in him, you know? And people were really getting off, you know, watching it, you know, like this was art, you know.
Oh man, he used to live on Bond Street. And then towards the end of his life, he lived in the Lower East Side, he used to ride his bike around 10th and B in the park, and he had this little bike, and he had gotten game on the way. It was beautiful to be with those people, Monk and all those musicians. They were inspiration, and it wasn't a verbal thing at all. It was just like the music was like in the air and in your head and shit. It's like,
Any corny term was there. I mean, it was like some kind of, not just music, but art was all around you, just surrounded by it all the time, wherever you went. See, wherever I went.
we were kind of in that circle, because Steve had these numbers. We had never met like 350 artists, you know what I mean? It wasn't that many really enjoying numbers. It wasn't that
But it was a lot of art, and it was, I think that it was more than other places who were, I mean, it was like a collective but it wasn't. You know what I mean? Everybody belongs to it, all the actors, all the, you know, all the artists belong to this Lower East Side collective, you know, maybe like a conscious, you know, they belong to it. And that too is why you would say that whenever someone had an idea or a project or something, opera, or whoever, what the organization was, everybody would, you know, follow right in and say, yeah, need the flyers, yeah, I'll do this, yeah, I'll do that.
It was in the air.
Yeah, it was in the right time, was the right time.
Sure, those are unusual moments.
cooperation, synergy.
And you got to get on it.
And also, you don't have to have a lot of money or anything, because you can just use making ideas happen, in the cooperation. So you can kind of tell, especially in the community, who's on it, who ain't on it, you know. And sometimes people have serious problems and they couldn't be involved, but then you kind of wait for them to come back. Sometimes you have a fight with somebody, it was a speech